This interview is brought to you courtesy of CCFM 107.5 and Sports Chaplaincy, South Africa.
Quite a few high-profile sports people like Marcus Rashford and Kolisi are giving back and helping sports people discover how they can position their platform for purpose. I want to get into that. I think that's so amazing and significant that people go beyond what they are known for in terms of their pastimes like either rugby or football like Marcus Rashford and Kolisi. But they've been using their profiles for the betterment of others, and especially Marcus Rashford this week making the Prime Minister Boris Johnson do a turnaround in terms of their policies. So let's talk about all of that and a couple more that we can squeeze in. Pastor Bruce, so welcome to Saturday Sport and welcome to Chaplain's Corner, your corner.
A pleasure to be here. Yeah, what a great story. You know, the narrative's often been with elite high performance sports people, especially footballers, you know, that they are very hedonistic, extremely selfish. But actually what we've seen during this COVID-19 lockdown has totally blown that narrative out of the water. Footballers in the UK and the game in general has responded incredibly, but the Marcus Rashford story is remarkable. Here's a young man who hasn't forgotten his own story, you know, growing up, one of 5 siblings, mum struggling to put food on the table. Marcus Rashford hasn't forgotten the unique situation that he was in. He lives in one of the poorest communities in the UK. So he hasn't forgotten that story. Obviously, it helps that he's still living in Manchester and will probably still be very connected. So despite, you know, his multi-millionaire status and his celebrity, his desire to give back has been inspiring, I think. I heard that he'd helped raise 20 million for a food aid charity. Yeah. But he's moved beyond compassion ministry to justice ministry, you know, to justice and to get a government to U-turn on their policy is a remarkable story for a 22-year-old.
Sure, that's massive, and especially for somebody of his age. But it's amazing how you can use your popularity as well and the groundswell of support for you to enable to even get the Prime Minister to contact you to talk through that particular policy they had in place and to make a U-turn on that. I think that's massive.
It is huge. It is huge. You know, you mentioned Kolisi earlier on, and I think, you know, truly inspirational leadership from Sia. Again, you know, he hasn't forgotten his own backstory, and you know, he hasn't just been a figurehead for food aid in our community at this time. You know, he's put his own body on the line. He's come alongside people. It's been really inspiring to see that. And of course the likes of Marcus Rashford and Sia have, you know, high profile platforms, but there are many other sports people, you know, might not be making the headlines, but who are wanting to leverage their positions in different ways to align, you know, their platforms and their positions with God's purpose. And that's something, you know, as a ministry we really want to encourage.
Sure, and I saw a picture of Kolisi, not just serving, but also eating what he's dishing out to people and just being part of the community, showing us his humanity, showing us that he's a man for all people. And I mean, I've seen that firsthand, that he really values people around him, and it's what an amazing example to have as a leader.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, we talk a lot in Sports Chaplaincy about the power of presence. And, you know, as Christians, we believe that God came close to us in Jesus and still does so in the power of the Holy Spirit. And, you know, and actually we're supposed to model that. People, you know, we need the presence of others in our lives. And for somebody of his profile to, you know, get in the shoulder and be in the homes of people in our communities at times like this is a very powerful statement.
Yeah, and I know that you're quite involved with especially high-profile sports people, and the question I want to pose to you is, how important is it for sports people to engage in social and community issues?
Yeah, I think it's very important. One of the things that I've been doing with some of the lads at Ajax over the past few weeks, particularly in light of some of the things that have been in the media, is that we can't ignore what's happened, let's say, with the Black Lives Matter thing and issues around race. We can't ignore what's going on in our communities in terms of gang violence and drugs and the food insecurity. We can't ignore, the inadequate housing and things like that. A lot of our lads will have come out of those situations and still are living in those communities. So we've actually spent time during this lockdown as we've met on Zoom, like others have been doing, actually chatting about these issues, but also digging into what the Word says about this, because as followers of Jesus, we want our sports people who know and love Jesus to respond from a gospel kingdom perspective. So it's been a great opportunity for us to be able to look beyond the personal dimension of our faith, to actually look at our community responsibility, but to look at that in the light of the gospel.
How can sports chaplains help sports people use their platforms effectively?
I think we're uniquely placed because we're present in the world of sports people, building relationships of trust, and as those relationships are built, begin to have those conversations. The first thing I would want to say is there's a do not. And the do not is that just because somebody has a platform, we immediately assume that they should be on a stage sharing their testimony. And of course, we've been doing interviews with some sports people who want to share their stories and are ready to share their stories in that way, and you've been using some of that on your show. But each person has a unique purpose, and that unique God-given purpose and position in God's kingdom, it is shaped by many things. It's shaped by the gifts and talents you've been given, and we want sports people to understand that whilst their sporting talent is one of the gifts God's given them, they are more sports. There will be other things that God has given them. They need to discover what those things are, then develop those gifts so they can deploy them for God's kingdom. Yeah. But also discover what you're passionate on. Just last week I was doing a socially distanced walk with one of our young players, and he's been a pro for a couple of years. At 17, he just signed his pro contract, and he immediately throws a party with goodie bags for kids in his community on the Cape Flats. Which tells me here's a young man who has already made a decision. He's passionate about giving back to his community because he sees the pain and he sees the struggle. And as we were talking last week, he was already talking about what he wants to do to be a change maker in his community. So, my responsibility is to help him fan that into flame. Yeah. For him to discover, not just what his passion is, but actually what his gifts are, so that he can align what God's given him with God's purpose for him. So I think, we are uniquely placed to do that, to have those discussions and to, enable sports people to think about how they've been uniquely created to serve God's purpose in this generation. One person I'd like to mention this morning, and I don't know whether he's listening or not this morning, but he'd be well worth getting on your show. I think it's a great example of somebody beginning to discover their unique purpose and their passion, and then aligning that, and that's Nathan Polser. I've had the privilege of knowing Nathan for 5 or 6 years now, and as his career was coming to an end, I know one of the things that really broke his heart has been seeing people who've been more talented than him not make the most of their talent, but also guys not making the most of the careers that they've had, and making poor life decisions, making poor choices, and actually fired by that discontent, that holy discontent. He started something called Starting 11 Revolution, which is a curriculum and a mentorship program that enables up-and-coming footballers to be given the tools and resources to, navigate their professional careers successfully. And that, for me, is a great example of a man who loves Jesus, but actually spending time saying, this is what God's put in my heart. He wants me to make a difference in the sport that I know, but in a very unique and creative way. I actually think it's a real game changer in South African football. He's only begun that journey, but it's been really exciting, especially in this lockdown period, seeing how he's had time really to invest in that program and invest in footballers. So we've got Marcus Rashford and Sia feeding people, but somebody like Nathan is actually equipping young footballers for life and for a life in professional sport. And that's as a result of him aligning his passion.
Always great catching up with you for Chaplain's Corner. Always great insight into the world of sport, but also bringing back some Christian principles in there that we can all apply. So thank you so much. Looking forward to the next one, of course.
Always a pleasure, mate.
God bless you. Cheers.
God bless you. Thanks for having me on the show. Cheers.
Brought to you courtesy of CCFM 107.5 and Sports Chaplaincy South Africa.